guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name is Dave Abkarian. I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a show where I sit down with some of my funny comedian friends and we talk about dads. Episode 3 now. We're just moving right along. This week's guest is a very funny comic named Brandie Posey. This is a fun episode. And this is all still new, so I'll ask you, dear listener, I'll leave it up to you. Brandie Posey is somebody that I'm like a legitimate fan of, and I kind of, in this episode, I geek out pretty hard on comedy, and we talk a lot about comedy, and I found it really interesting, but I don't know, there's a lot of podcasts that do that. And it may not necessarily be why you tuned in. Maybe you just want to hear about dads. I don't know. But we talk a lot about Brandie's career, and I find it absolutely fascinating. And we do talk a lot of comedy shop. And I really enjoyed it. And I think you guys would enjoy it too. But I also get, I also get it. Maybe you just want to hear about dad stuff. I don't know. So I didn't edit anything in this episode. I left it all in because I liked it. So I just made a creative judgment call. But I mean, if you want to give me some feedback on that, and because it's your show too. If you're listening to it, I want it to be something you want to listen to. Feel free to give me some feedback. You can actually email me at saddadpodcast at gmail.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter too, at saddadpodcast on Twitter. You can look me up. And let me know. Like I said, this is all new. This is all different. And I want to make it a show that you and me like. So that's what we're doing. But it's a great chat, and I think that we spend the first half of the show, like I said, talking comedy, and the second half of the show is real good dad talking. I realized, like, we're doing the show, and Brandie's telling me about her dad, and it's so much of it just resonates with me. Because so much of it sounds like she's talking about my dad. And so it was, and it brought up some old memories for me. And so it was good. I really, really liked what we talked about. And you'll hear it in just a bit. Coming out of Easter weekend, it's the Tuesday after Easter. And it was kind of a crazy weekend. We're putting on a show tonight. My partner and I, Danny Minch, run a bunch of shows up here in Fresno, and this is going to be our 6th show in 5 days. So we're running kind of ragged, and this weekend it had its ups and downs. There were some really fun shows, but turnout's always light. I mean, we were working against spring break and the Final Four and basketball and Easter. And so it was, the crowds were a little light, and we expected them to be, but they were fun, man. The people that stayed in town for Easter were ready to laugh. So it was a great weekend. And a little tired right now. I'm excited for tonight's show, but I'm also excited for a couple of days off from comedy, and found some time to edit some podcasts. So that's what I've been doing this morning. Did some podcast recordings this weekend too. So yeah, I've been a busy bee, and all while my daughter has been on spring break from school, so she's been running around while I've been trying to work and be productive, and kind of a sweet moment this week. Friday night, a few days back, I had a show in the evening, and that's usually my night with my daughter, and so she was going to go over to my folks' house, and my daughter and my mom are real close, and but my mom was gone. She had something going on, so it was just my daughter and my dad over there, and it was so cute. Like my dad is like, "Hey, you want some pizza?" And she's like, "Yeah, pizza sounds good." And he's like, "Well, it's just the two of us. You want to go to Chuck E. Cheese?" So the two of them just had this kind of fun daddy or granddaughter, granddad night, and they sent me pictures of that, and it was cool. I asked my dad, when was the last time you went to Chuck E. Cheese, Dad? And he says, man, it's been like 25 years. My daughter had to like show him the ropes, because there's cards now. They have cards, not so much on tokens. Remember tokens being a big thing when I was a kid, and so now everything's all automated and cards, and so they had a really good time. And it was just for me as a dad, and seeing my dad and my daughter going out and having fun was real heartwarming. So that's just an update on me. Easter was fine. We did a show on Easter night, and that was cool. It was one of the best Easters I've had in a while. Yeah, it was good. I hope your Easter went well, or Passover, or maybe you just didn't celebrate anything. It's okay. I'm not really particularly religious. I just like candy. Candy's so good, you guys. So, yeah, I'm going to give you a moment right now to tell me about your Easter, or your weekend, your previous weekend, the weekend of Easter. For those that are non-denominational and atheist, they're my friends. I'm kind of, the atheist thing. I feel like I don't really believe in a higher power. I was kind of a staunch atheist for a long time, but I don't know. It's just such a weird. It's just something I kind of go back and forth on. Not necessarily that I believe that there's an all-powerful being, but I don't know. I feel like I've been leaning a little bit more agnostic. What's just completely apathetic? Like, what is just I don't care? Is that a thing? Because I don't feel like that's agnostic. Like, I feel like we like have to have a thing. Like, we have to be an atheist and we have to be an agnostic. But what is I just don't care? What is that one? It's not nihilism, is it? No, because well, I don't know. I just I think I'm that, whatever that is. Anyway, so tell me about your weekend. I'm gonna be quiet. You speak directly into your listening device, and then it's like we're having a conversation. So go ahead now. Tell me about it. A salamander? What? You're crazy. God, I hope somebody did something with a salamander this weekend, because that's gonna just blow their fucking mind. All right, guys. Well, let's do this. I've just been ranting. Oh my goodness. My timer says it's been 8 minutes. What did I even talk about? Oh man. Okay. Well, let's do this. This episode's Brandie Posey, and she's a delight, and you're gonna love her to death. And I'll see you on the other side.
Most of our guests can keep up, but every once in a while you get somebody that's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, sorry. All three of us have ADHD.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a smart person. I have to keep reminding myself. That's funny. I hit record like 15 seconds ago.
Oh, did you marin me in?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. It's just, I get weird about the. Let's start now. You okay? You had the most Fresno day.
I did.
You did stuff I haven't done before. Like, I've never been to the cat reserve.
The cat haven.
What would tell me about that again?
So the cat haven is hilarious. It's like it's awesome too, actually. But it's like hilarious because it's like anytime there's just like a bunch of lions in the woods. You're like, what? What's happening? So Cat Haven is it's about 45 minutes from wherever you live.
Yeah.
You're in Fresno, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
this is
cool.
Fresno.
I don't know because
it's a country, but
it's out in like Dunlap-ish area. And it's up in the mountains, and it's this preserve that was started by this guy that when he was in 7th grade, he fell in love with the idea of conservation, and like jaguars were the first thing that he would donate his like 7th grade money to a jaguar basically.
Wow.
And he this has been his dream his whole life, and he's like started this thing called Cat Haven, and now they have you pay them like $15 and you get to go on a walking tour, and you see like all these cats in their preserves and stuff, and all of the money that Cat Haven makes gets sent overseas to the critically endangered animals that they keep there. So like they sponsor a lot of like cheetah preserves, because cheetahs are like critically like very, very, very endangered. So they send a lot of money to Africa to like help with that. They just send a lot of money to Siberia because snow leopards are endangered. And what they do like very practical stuff too. Like basically they say send $250 at a time to these like goat farmers in Siberia that like basically that gives them money to put like mesh over the top of their goat pens, because that way the snow leopards won't jump in and kill all their goats.
Gotcha.
Because that's like why that's why the goat herders kill them. So it's like they try to find these very like practical ways.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat thing. So it's like you walk around, and it was funny today because like the tour right before us was like a bunch of shitty teenage boys, and like our tour guide just was ragging on them the whole time. It was just like all the cats were like riled up and angry, and like, oh yeah, it's because they're like stinky teenage boys just came through here, and we're like trying to like tap on their cages, and it's like that's a jaguar.
Yeah,
it's like a 900-pound cat. And I guess like one of the bigger jaguars was like eating like a dead rabbit when the like boys walked around, and they were like, we don't want to fuck with that one. It's like, yeah, that's what they can all do, by the way, as a reminder.
That's all in my hometown, and I didn't know that. You're like really good. And then we're at the venue tonight. Brandie just got done headlining. You killed it at the show tonight. It was so good. And then she orders food at this place I'm at 5 days a week.
Yep.
And I'm like, what did you order?
It's gnocchi.
These pastas that look like little bread. They look like, and you're
delicious.
like, try one. I'm like, this is the most amazing thing. She's like, you asked me like, what's good? I'm like, pizza countdowns. Like, idiot, man.
This is how I like to tour.
Yeah.
It's like,
great.
show me some big cats, give me a weird pasta. It's basically all I'm ever looking for.
You know, you should if you have the time tomorrow. It's in Fresno, like proper. Okay. You should check out the underground gardens.
Ooh,
yeah.
Oh, I saw that on a list somewhere. Yeah.
It's pretty neat. It's
cool.
It's this
like an old Spaniard, right?
Yeah. He like moved to Fresno, and he was like, it's way too hot here, and then he just started digging an underground tunnel, and like
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty rad, and it was pretty vast. And then I think in like the 70s or 80s, when like the 99 cut through Fresno, they lost part of it, but there's still a lot to explore. And
super cool.
And what's really cool is like the tour guides that are there are like super into it. So even if you're kind of like skeptical about the whole thing, the tour guides can just like strong arm you into like giving a shit. It's great.
I love that shit. It's my favorite thing. I love touring and seeing that kind of like, what is the thing that is unique only in your town? Right. Show me that thing. Because it's also like, there's something very endearing to me about a thing that that is your passion that isn't going to make you internationally famous, where it's just like, I'm driven to do this, and it's okay that it just happens here, and this is just my corner of the world, and I'm going to be the king of this corner. Like there's something that's just very, very sweet about that. That's just like, oh man, that's
I'm going to take pride in this thing.
Yeah, I just want to see other people's passions. Like I love it. Like I was doing shows near San Diego, and there's a place called Julian, California that has it's called the Oasis Camel Dairy, and it's this couple.
Oh yeah, you mentioned this to me the other day.
Yeah, and it's amazing. There's this couple that they just they met at a state fair, and he was like raising camels, and then she does like a talking bird show. Like she's trained a bunch of cockatiels to like sing songs and stuff.
it's like the tiki room.
Yeah, exactly. Like real life, but like on a camel farm.
All right.
Yeah, you're into it when you see it. You're like, oh, okay, cool. And like they met at a state farm or a state fair, and then they started this camel dairy together, and she does her bird shows.
Yeah.
And then like they trot out the camels. You can feed apples to the camels and stuff. And it's just like they're just like, no, this is what we do. It's like $5. Come watch the bird show. And, you know, we've been together for 30 years. And I'm like, oh, you beautiful weirdos.
Adorable.
Yeah. I love finding those people. They're like my favorite people in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And well, there's a guy, I don't know if you saw him tonight. He does our open mic, and
the older guy.
Yeah, and he has the funny hat,
Yes.
like that steampunk hat.
I tweeted something about him, and it is actually going a little bit viral, which is exciting.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
I'll have to check it out
because he's like 70 or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he's pretty old.
And his wife just started doing burlesque, and the reason that he started doing stand up is because she started doing burlesque, and I was like. I in my tweet, I was just like, he's made me believe in soulmates again. Yeah. It's like so sweet just to be the idea of being 70 and being like, you know what? Why not learn something new? Why not make this the new thing we do? Yeah. It's just
we do these like writing workshops before our Sunday show, where we have all the open micers come in and we just work on material with each other. And it was so cute. Like the first time we did it, I got there early, and he was already there, him and his wife, and she like sat through the session. Like she didn't say much. She like chimed in a couple. Like, tell him about this bit, honey. And I was like,
I love that. I love it. Yes.
And she is every bit as weird as he is. You know, perfect. I mean, aside from the burlesque thing, and then I say weird, but you know, and then endearing,
eccentric, right? Like sweet, whatever. They're old, they're doing it.
Absolutely.
I would love to see a 70-year-old burlesque performer. I love.
Yeah.
Do you know what her name is? Her burlesque name is?
I don't. I
love her burlesque name. I love
met her. I think her real name is Cindy, but
okay,
it's almost there. You're Brandie Posey.
Yeah, that's me.
That's who you are.
You're Dave.
I'm Dave. I'll do a little like intro thing, but and like say your name. This wouldn't be the first time everybody's heard your name, but
some people for sure.
You've done some cool stuff. I mean, you're a comedian.
I am. I'm a stand-up comic, podcaster, writer, all that jazz.
I want to ask you about a bunch of the cool shit you've done.
Yeah.
But I guess before that, like, how did you get into comedy?
I've wanted to do it since I was a kid. I remember being in like second grade and seeing Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, and the moment where Jim Carrey comes out of the rhino's asshole, I wanted to be a comedian. It was like this moment for me that I was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Nothing has ever made me feel this good. I'm laughing so hard that I'm crying.
Yeah.
I want to feel like this every day. And then I was like, I want to find that. And then the road to get to stand up took a long time, because when I was a kid, I kind of wrote off stand up comedy for a long time, because in like the 90s, all the stand-up that I saw on TV as a little kid in Baltimore was like mostly like a lot of like backwards hatted bro stuff that I was like, I don't care about any of this. Yeah. I also just like didn't want any of those people to be my peers, where I was just like, I have nothing in common with this. This is whatever. Not a big deal. And there are good comics in there. Now that I've, the more I've done it, the more I'm like, okay, there is something there. I can find it now. But like, when I moved out, I went to college for screenwriting because I wanted to write sketches on SNL and stuff like that. And like all of my short films in college were just sketches. My professors would be like, why aren't they serious? Why aren't they joyless? And I was like, I don't know, because I think it's funny. Like funny is better than serious. Why would I care about like a diabetic dying pregnant woman
that comes out of a rhino's asshole?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's way funnier. I'm sorry. Like a rhino that shits out Jim Carrey is going to be funnier than any fucking like 5-minute cancer story you're gonna tell. Like I always want people to laugh. I like very specifically remember like pitching ideas in classes and my professors being like, so why do you think this is funny? And I'd be like, because it is. Yeah, because when I said it, people laughed. Done.
You'll never there's no amount of, if you don't think
if you don't
funny,
get it, you get it.
Yeah, exactly. There's no amount of explaining I can do if,
exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't, when I started doing, I was never a comedy nerd. Like I didn't really watch much stand up, like an occasional special or whatever. And I had this like soul sucking job and everybody in my family at some point has had like this catastrophic like nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was having one of those, you know, and I just quit my job. And
how old were you when that happened?
I was 30.
Okay.
Like maybe I was 29.
Yeah.
And so I quit. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I'd always written stories and silly stuff. And I was trying to find a job, and I was like, my favorite part of writing is always the funny parts.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to write down all my funny parts.
Yeah.
And then I wrote them all down, and it felt good. And I was like, I wish there was like a medium, or like a forum, or like a genre, where I could just say funny parts out loud.
Then you were like, wait a second.
Wait a minute, I want to be a comedian.
It's like you were just like Nick Cage solving a puzzle in National Treasure, just like, the desk's resolute. Stand up. That's the thing.
It's like backed into comedy. And so you started in I mean, did you start in Maryland? Is that
no? I started doing stand up in LA. Like, so I went to college for like film production and screenwriting. Basically, I moved out to LA for like a 6-month internship at my junior year, just to kind of be like, I know what New York's like. I don't like it. Let me go try LA out, and kind of fell in love with LA. Mm-hmm. And when I was there, I took an improv 101 class at the UCB, and was like, I don't like this, but I like something like this. And I couldn't figure it out yet. I was like, I don't dislike the performance aspect of it. I hate not being prepared. Right. I just really, I respect improv. I do actually respect improv as an art form when it's done well, when you can see people that like hone it as a craft. And I think there's something to be learned from it for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I really, the writer in my head would be like, give me one more second and I will find the perfect fucking word for this.
Right. And that's not necessarily what improv is about.
It's not what improv's about at all.
Yeah.
You know, I never thought that I could get comfortable doing improv. I was just like, I don't think I'll ever actually enjoy this in a way that's fun.
Right.
Side note, Jerry O'Connell was in my improv 101 class,
Nice.
which was like kind of fucked up.
That is, yeah.
Because our like class graduation show was like standing room only, because people were like, we want to see Jerry O'Connell do improv. Wow. And everybody in our class was like, we don't know what we're doing. Why is this a packed theater?
Yeah, it was all Jerry O'Connell.
It was all Jerry O'Connell fans.
Chubby kid from Stand By Me.
Yep.
Nah.
He brought Rebecca Romaine backstage to like.
I forgot they were married.
It was so sweet. He brought her backstage to meet everybody. He's like, hey, this is my class. Everybody, this is Rebecca, my wife. And we're like, yeah, we know who your wife is.
Yeah, fucking Mystique.
Yes. Yeah, we know who your wife is, Jerry. Why are you introducing her to us? That's not how this is supposed to work.
But it's kind of, but it's also
so
very sweet. Yeah.
He was like a very endearing, very sweet person.
Oh, that's cool.
It was cool. So like that was like the 6 months I moved out here. I moved back to Philly to finish up graduating, because my dad was like, you have to graduate. And I was like, all right, I want a degree regardless, because I've always been like, I have my head on my shoulders about shit where it's like, you know what? I'm realistic. You never know what's going to happen. I should have a degree just in case. It's good just to have one. Yeah. Not that everybody has to have one. It's just whatever. And when I was back there, I convinced my program director to let me take sketch classes at UCB New York. So I would go up, because we didn't have sketch classes at Drexel where I went. So I went up to New York twice a week and just took classes up there. And then I was like, okay, sketch is like, a real sketch class is like closer to where I want to be, but I still don't feel home. Like I wasn't like connecting with people in a way that I was like, if I felt like I was home, I would be connecting with people more. And then I graduated. My senior project was like a half-hour sketch show basically, and then I moved back out to LA after that. And started like working as a PA and a bunch of stuff. And that's when I started just going to UCB shows all the time. And that's when I started seeing like Paul F. Tompkins and like Patton Oswalt and Maria Bamford and like, like more quote unquote alt comics. And then I was like, oh, this is how my brain works. Yeah. Like this is my shit. And then I remember like one night seeing, Graham Elwood was like riffing something within like the same 10-minute set. He had like referenced like Abraham Lincoln, The Specials, and like one more thing that I was like, nobody knows what I'm ever talking about, and he just hit all my reference points. Holy shit! Yeah, I'm like in the right place. Yeah. And then I started doing stand up. I just started doing open mics. Well, I did a 6-month workshop before I started, because really? I was like, I don't know anything about stand up. Yeah. And it turned out to be like, basically I was glad that I had like, I knew my comedy sensibilities, because the workshop basically ended up being me being like justifying every choice I was making, which actually kind of helped a lot out of the gate, because I was like, yeah, I was like, I know why I want to do this, I just don't know how to execute it yet. Versus like, well, I remember like the teacher was like, all right, well, in my act, I have like a kick that I do. And I was like, I don't need a fucking kick. I was like, I'm not going to do a fucking kick in my act. And then I actually did write a joke that had a kick in it to spite her. Because that's who I am as a person. And I was like, she'll never see this. And I don't even do the joke anymore. But for a while, I did have a kick in one of my jokes. And I was like, oh my God, you're such a psycho.
You know, it's funny because I've met quite a few comedians that have gone the stand-up like class route, you know, when they were first starting out. And some of them were real quiet about that. Yeah. I took a stand-up class. I'm like, no, dude, it's fine.
No, I honestly, like, people that get shitty about it, I'm like, what did you know about stand-up when you started? Like, I didn't know. And also, it's like, it's not like, I think the shittiness comes in is where people are like, go from stand-up class to like only bringer shows to then booked shows, where you some people just think they can skip that whole open mic period. Right. And to me, it was like, okay, this is like constructive class time that I can get, and now I have something to bring to mics. Because then I was, you know, hitting like 12 mics a week for like the next 3 years. And like I ran a mic for 3 years, 3.5 years, like, and then I was running 2 or 3 shows at any given point for the first like 6 years I did comedy. And it was like, but those first like 6 weeks that were just like supportive and structured and were like, oh, you're making me think about stand up. And because it's also, when you start going to mics, nobody gives a fuck who you are. And like, fair enough. Right. You know, a lot of people think that like the LA scene is cliquey, and it's like, it's not that. It's just that there's so many people that it's like, I'm going to be here every night. And if you're not going to be here every night, why am I going to take the time to get to know you? Because 4 months from now, when I've invested that time, you're going to be gone. And like, I'm still going to be here. Yeah. So you gotta kind of have to like prove that you're serious before people are willing to like really. Yeah. And it's also like, we're all busy, and everybody's also like a fucking socially awkward weirdo too. Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, you're like, oh, we all have autism of some kind.
No, absolutely. You know, I mean, you're right about the like the ebb and flow of comedians from our open. I mean, it happens at our open mics too. And you know, it's tough sometimes when you're used to seeing somebody, you know, 3 or 4 times a week, and they're your buddy, and you're emotionally invested, and then they're like, man, I don't think comedy's for me. And
well, and especially when you're like in the beginning phases, when you're still like coagulating as a comedian, and then when you're like, no, we're like going through something together, because like comedy to me is like the art of learning to fail gracefully, where it's like not really about being funny, but it's about learning to like, the most interesting points in your set for you as a comic will always be the moments that did not get the hardest laugh that that you thought they should have, because everything else can crush, but those are the moments that still need work. And it's like, oh, this is where the work is not done yet. So like, the longer you do it, hopefully those moments become harder for other people to detect. So you're just failing more and more gracefully every single night, you know, but you're still always failing, because it will never be perfect. And
it's good to have that, like, I don't know. There's 1 or 2 guys that we just laser in on each other. You know, we watch each other's sets like hawks, because we know each other's sets, and it's good having those like comedy like BFFs too. It's the best.
And I mean, it's like the people, and like, I can get through the worst room in the world as long as I hear one laugh in the back that I know, and even if that person is laughing at me because I'm eating shit, it's like, the fact that they've bared witness to it, and we can talk about it later and be like, that was fucked up, right?
Yeah,
like, you
absolutely.
know, as long as you have that person, and it's like, it's a crew of you know, the people you come up with are like, you know, I don't want to say war buddies, but like a comedy war buddy, like, but it's a lot similar.
I mean, the guys that you know, cheer when you cheer the loudest when you crush it. And the guys that, you know, clap you on the back when you have a rough set.
Exactly.
Absolutely. There's one guy here locally, Trevor. He and I have been doing it about the same amount of time, and he had this. He got booked on a show, and I went. I wasn't on the show. I was just there to support. And he had this like one of those like transcendent sets, you know, where all the jokes that I knew all of his jokes, and he just crushed in a way I've never seen him crush before.
Awesome.
And there was a girl that was standing next to me. And she talked to Trevor after I had left, and she's like, I don't think Dave liked your set because I didn't see him laugh one time.
Yeah.
It's because my fucking jaw was dropped. Like,
Yeah,
I'm just like, yes, he's doing it.
Yes.
And,
Totally.
And because I could practically do Trevor's set. I've seen it so much, and it was just one of those moments where I was just able to like watch my friend, do it right. Your war buddy just absolutely murder.
Well, and it's cool because it's like, I don't think people get gradually good at stand-up, but the way that it appears to other people is like you hit these like plateaus and you level up, and like out of nowhere somebody will like, something will click and it won't even be conscious. It'll be something in their subconscious that just like clicks, and then like the jokes that weren't quite working, boom, now they're there. Yeah. And it's like it's just the repetition of doing it. Something finally settles into the right place in your body, and then you're like, oh shit, cool, there it is.
Yeah. I mean, and I mean it's the same words.
Yeah.
It's just
Totally.
it's just this mentality and this feeling and this, just, I mean, I don't know, to relate it back, I guess to jazz, they would call it like being in the pocket,
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think there is just something to also putting in the time of like feeling what it's like to be on stage in that moment, because also like I put 2 words in my head every time before I go on stage. I like set my intention, and the 2 words are casual alpha. Where I'm just like I'm in fucking charge, but everybody's cool with it. And like that's try to like the vibe that I'm always like trying to be like, all right, cool, like that. If I can exude that on stage, what I say barely even matters. If people just feel like they're being taken care of, because the second that an audience like senses fear in the performer, that's when that you start to lose them, because they're like, oh god, I don't want to see something horrible happen. But if you can just even trick them into thinking that you know what's happening, even if you're working on a new bit or something, then it's just like finding that like, whatever, we'll work through this, or just being able to let it roll off of you like that.
Absolutely. I was actually one thing, I mean, you are so graceful at that too. Like you like, I saw you on stage. You acknowledged that you like flubbed a word or something. And you just rolled right into it. Like, fuck that up. Well, here's the rest of the bit. It's funny.
I was like, no, it's fine. You're not even listening. It's fine.
That was great. It was,
thanks.
And it's just. I mean, it's neat to see that, it's okay to make mistakes even at your level, but also the recovery is so important. And
and just like you're never going to be perfect, and it's those graceful failures to be like, okay, cool, sure, that I fucked that up, doesn't matter, moved on. People don't even remember. It
was awesome. I mean, I'm sorry, I remembered.
Oh no, I mean, audience members, you're a comic, you remember everything. You'll use it against me someday. It'll be great.
You've done like so many cool things. I don't know if we finished. How far into your comedy journey did we get? We were back in Philadelphia.
No, we got to me starting out in LA. And I've been doing it for about 10 years. And I started touring about 5 ago. And before that, I mean, I ran a bunch of shows in LA. Like I ran an open mic for 3.5 years. I ran a show for 4 years called the 4 and 20. That was 4 comics doing 20 minutes each with a host.
Oh, wow.
And I'd get like my favorite open micers would host. And then it was basically just like, hey, everybody in LA, long sets don't happen here. We all need to figure out how to be features. So let's just be features 4 people like every week. And, I didn't really promote it that much, because I was like, if I can make 3 people that come here laugh for 20 minutes and do it in like a regular room somewhere with people that actually give a fuck. And like I that David Carradine joke that I have, though, that's the room I'm referencing, because that room was brutal. But it like
such a long set.
I mean, it's 20 minutes and you just be like, oh god. But just learning to feel like what 20 minutes feels like on stage, like, okay, all right, let's see what this is about. And just like the 2 people that came every week were these 2 homeless dudes, and they just like loved it, and they would like heckle us, but in like like the nice heckling way. They'd be like, oh shit, what does that mean? And they'd just yell, and then so you were dealing with that, and it was just like, it was a hard room, but it was the best. So I ran that for like 4 years, and then I've had like other 3 or 4 different other shows that have happened like here and there. And it's just I've just always, every time that I've been like, what is the next skill that I need to learn, I try to figure out the best way to do that.
Yeah.
You know, because it was like with 4 and 20, it was like, there's no time. Nobody's going to give me 20 minutes in LA. I don't have my TV credits. And I still don't. But it's like, you know, all right, I'll just go start my own show in this weird bowling alley. And then I'll just do that every week until like I figure out how to do this. Because the problem with starting in LA, I love that I started there. I'm very proud of that scene. I'm proud of the city. I love it a lot. But it's really hard to get club work based out of LA because none of the clubs will work you consistently because like they don't need to build stables because they have famous people.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So they don't need to build
They're
like
all
unknown
covered
stables.
that.
Like you just will not get up at them enough that it matters to hook a headliner into taking on the road. Right. And most headliners, it's hard for them to take features on the road now because like like at most clubs the money has not changed since the 80s. Oh. So it's just like it doesn't make sense for you to just tour as a feature because you're not like really making enough most of the time. Or like, and most headliners, it's like they either have their person that they bring everywhere because they bumped up enough, or they can't afford to bring somebody. So they just use whoever the local people are. Yeah,
and that's funny to hear that end of it too, because I've heard other people say that, you know, well, I guess it depends on who you're in with, but featuring is one of the easiest jobs in comedy. You know,
rules. I love featuring. And 20 minutes is like give it to me every time.
And and if you're attached to a big name, I think the money's decent.
It's pretty good. Yeah. I'm just talking about like your B clubs and stuff like that. It's like most features are still making about like 500 a weekend, which was great in 1985.
Right, you were just killing it.
Fine. Now. I mean, it's not like you basically need to be able to like Airbnb out your house while you're on the road because it's not enough to cover everything it needs to. Like that money just hasn't changed, unfortunately.
For sure.
Because it doesn't have to, because
you this is really funny. I don't think I told you. We when we put up all your, and I want to ask you about it because it sounds really cool. You were on a compilation album. A comedy compilation album.
Yes.
Called Holy Fuck. And I wasn't familiar, and I didn't do enough Googling to understand it, but it's a comedy compilation album?
So there used to be a show in LA called Holy Fuck. Dave Ross and Jeff Wattenhofer ran it, and it was every Tuesday at this movie theater. And basically, it was just a really fun showcase. It just got a lot of press out of the gate, and it turned into a really, really fun weekly party show. It was great. Like, the audiences were always awesome. Dave got really big names. Like, it was a blast. And when he was going to stop the show, because he'd been running it for 3 or 4 years, and he was about to, Dave and I are the same class, and like he basically was like, I need to start going on the road. I can't be here. As opposed to handing off the show to somebody else, I'm going to like put an end to it, end it while it's at the top, and then let somebody else like start something new in this space and like make that whatever they want it to be. And so he wanted to, like, Dave and I are both like, a lot of people in our class actually are really interesting because like I feel like DIY, like punk and ska are like huge influences on like how we view the world in a lot of ways. So that's kind of the work ethic. Because
that's immediately what I thought of when I heard. I thought of like those old beer nuts compilations.
That's exactly what we were going for.
Yeah,
with it, for sure.
That's so cool. We actually it was so funny when we were doing all the promo stuff for you. It all got kicked back. The algorithm picked up on that. We're like, oh shit!
It's so funny that happened because the word "fuck" will like mess up an event invite on Facebook to be sponsored, but Facebook made Donald Trump president, and it's like, are you serious?
Yeah.
He said way worse things than "holy fuck," and he's president. You can't promote my goddamn shows in Fresno.
We had a similar problem with Nat Baymel. Because in his bio, he says something, he's like, I'm a funny Jew or something like that.
Yeah.
And it kicked it back because of the word Jew.
Ooh, like, Facebook, that is rough.
And it was just like, it's like, you're not looking at the context at all. Like,
no, you're not. Bad algorithm.
So strange.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
But yeah, Holy Fuck is like a really great compilation album. You can listen to it on Spotify. And it's got some like, a lot of people that are becoming bigger and bigger all the time. Like it's kind of a cool time capsule for all of us just to be like, this is what it was like before we all started getting shit.
And is it like curated? Is there like a theme? Oh, that's
well,
cool.
I think it probably ends up being about 30 comedians that at that time were like the family of that show.
Oh, gotcha.
Like we were the ones that were like there every week. Like it's like basically like a class graduation show for all of us.
That's pretty cool.
Like that's what it felt like. And we like recorded it over four shows over the course of a month, and like it sounds awesome. It's really funny. Everybody's tracks are 3 minutes long.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's people like the guys that just corporate on Comedy Central, my friends like Matt Ingebretson and Jake Weissman, they're on that. They're on that. Like Rory Scovel's on that. It's like there's huge. Moshe Kasher does a track on it. Like Beth Stelling is on there, and it's like we're all, these were when we were still babies. It's cool.
That is really cool. Yeah, I've always had I think it would be cool to do a compilation album like that, but with a theme. Where you got everybody's like a whole breakup compilation album, with everybody's best breakup bits or whatever.
Oh, for sure. I actually produced and hosted, did the first set on an album that I put out last year on election day called "Burn This Election," and I don't even know if it's in my bio or not, but it was basically like the 6 months before the election last year, or 2 years ago at this point. I was like, people have some really good election jokes. And like as it was getting closer, I had more and more anxiety about. I was like, the most horrible thing is going to happen in my head. Like 2 months ahead of time, I was like, he's gonna win. He's gonna win. He's gonna win. Oh my god. 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 And I was just seeing people all over the country that had these insane election jokes that were about more than him, but were also just like, this is important stuff that we need to remember this moment in time. Yeah. So then like a week before the election in LA, I threw a house party and had, I think it's like 18 tracks of a bunch of my friends that had great election material. We did a house party show. Everybody just banged out like their best 3-minute set. And it's an amazing album because we recorded it right after the Cubs won the World Series.
Oh yeah, that was a crazy time.
It was
like that
nuts.
Whole thing.
It was crazy. We literally like it's a weird energy on the album too. It's really great because half of the people that were there were like, what's baseball? And the other half were like, this is the greatest thing ever. Yeah. So we were just like, maybe Hillary can win. I don't know. Yeah, so like it was like, so that had just happened and we were coming down from like this weird historic thing. And then we just started recording it. And it was just like the energy throughout that whole night was awesome. And we recorded it like a week before. And then I edited it down, like mixed it, did all that shit, and then got it up and released it on election day. And all proceeds for that album go to RAIN, which is the Rape and Incest National Network. Really? So because I was like, oh, Donald Trump is a rapist, I'm going to donate all proceeds from this album to help rape victims.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's cool. And like to date, it's made about like just under $1,000.
Yeah. So you have done the thing that I've.
But for the election,
it exists. It's out there.
One of my dreams, if I were to get to a point where I was like independently wealthy, is I want to do a thing called Burn This Records, that is basically digital only compilation albums of like historical moments like that, where it's like, and it wouldn't happen all the time, but it's like, this is something that's in the zeitgeist that we're all talking about that I think is important, and we need to like, comedy can help. But and let's donate it to something that it will help too. Right. And it's like definitely one of those things was at like the bottom of my list to be like, oh my god damn it. Yeah. You can't start a record label. You need to do late night. What are you doing?
right. A few things between here and there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool to have dreams. Think about that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. I can nerd out about comedy with you. You're so fun to talk to you about this stuff. But let's talk about dads.
Yeah.
Let's talk about dads.
Oh,
you have a dad?
I do have a dad. No, I was born in a test tube.
Yeah.
No.
Well, podcast is over.
Good night. Charles Elwood Posey.
Oh, wow.
Chuck.
Okay, I wasn't going to make you name him, but that's cool.
I don't know. I'll put it out there. He doesn't care.
Where did he grow up?
He's from Maryland as well. So I'm the only person in my family that's ever moved out of Maryland, basically.
Really?
Maryland to Virginia is like kind of where my whole family's from. Yeah, he's from Maryland, grew up there. He was raised on a farm. And basically like my my grandparents, my grandmother lived in Baltimore. My grandfather is a hillbilly from Virginia. They met before World War II, got married. And when my grandfather came back from World War II, he used his veterans money to buy a farm. And that's like where they moved to the farm. They had kids. Like my grandfather like did not want to live in a city. My grandmother became like a country girl. Like they had like, chickens and pigs, and like they grew a lot of crops and stuff. Mm-hmm. And like the plan, I think they had like 30 acres or something. And like the plan was eventually that like my dad would get 10 acres, my aunt would get 10 acres, and my grandparents would keep 10, and then that we would all like live in the same plot together, and like that was the thing.
Sounds familiar. It's exactly what's going on over in my house.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. But I think in like the late 70s, my dad was like 22 or 23 or something, and there was a Parks Reclamation Act that came through Maryland, where basically they bought up a bunch of farmland to let it just go wild and grow back over so they could turn it into like parks. Basically just like, we're losing too much green space because of development. This is what we're going to do. And there was not a choice. You had to sell back for a good price, but you had to sell back. And then my dad had still been living at home at that point. Like he like went to college, but he never lived on campus. He went to community college for 2 years, and then like College Park, University of Maryland College Park for the next 2 years. That's where I met my mom. And they just like, he moved with them to the new place, but like that was like a major life thing for him, because he also like had dogs that were buried on that land, and he grew up there, and he had like like the river behind the house is like where he put rusted nails through his hands like an idiot a couple of times. Yeah. And was the farm like the family business, or did they have like, was there like a trade that was? It wasn't the family business. Like my grandfather, after World War II, he worked in like a factory that built stoves.
Okay.
Yeah, and like his hands were always just fucked up because they'd been smashed by like the machines in the factory and stuff. I remember just being like, oh God, Pop-Pop's fingernails are gross.
Falling up.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh no, it's because that his hands are gnarled because they were like smashed by like machines.
Heavy machinery.
Yeah. And then my grandmother, she worked in factories too, but she was like more in textiles and stuff like that.
Okay.
So they both did
like,
that.
This is blue collars.
Oh,
blue collar.
Yeah. I come from like super blue collar people, but like my grandfather is like, his parents never owned a farm, so he wanted to own a farm. So like he bought that farm, and they would sell some stuff, but it wasn't like that wasn't the whole thing. But they like grew all their own fruits and vegetables. Like they were very self-sufficient. I think like my grandfather was, I think just after World War II especially, he just was like, you know what? I don't want to be I don't want to be beholden to anything. I will make money where I have to make money. Like he was his like a union's president and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But he was also just like he's like, no, we're going to grow our own food. We'll dig our own pool. Like we're just going to stay here and no one's going to talk to us. And I'm just going to sweat in this bed over here and not talk about PTSD until I die.
Yeah, I'm sure I just had it coming back from World War II. Yeah. All that going on.
He was like he was like in Europe, and he was a part of the Corps of Engineers. So their job was like they would go in first and like build like the for the planes to land.
Oh,
they built. It was their job to like get there and set all that stuff up, and they dug the trenches.
Built
like they,
LZ,
so they were like the first line in, and like he never talked about it, but I know that he definitely like saw a bunch of shit.
Oh yeah,
I mean like everybody, most of them did, but like
for sure. And so what does your dad do?
He's a CPA.
CPA, that's really boring.
I know. It honestly, it is, but no, it is unless you talk to him about it, and then he's like,
"You were." Well, to be fair, we will talk about it, but it was your bookkeeping skills that unearthed the whole. I mean, so it seems like I don't know. That's not a fair statement for me. It's just we just got done talking about World War II.
Oh no, completely. I mean, it's interesting. Like I would think it's boring too, but like so my dad's interesting because he was the first person in our family to go to college. On that side of the family. On my mom's side, it was my mom. So both my parents are like first generation college people in their families. But my dad initially went to school for architecture, but at that time, there was like no job growth basically, and my dad's uncle, like, so my aunt, my grandmother's sister's husband, was a CPA. This guy named Frank, who my Uncle Frank was a very sweet, very nice man who made a lot of money. And he became a CPA, and then he started like a furniture business, and he became like a millionaire in Maryland, basically off of this furniture business.
What?
And
This is your uncle?
this is my my great uncle.
Oh, your great uncle.
My great uncle.
Gotcha.
And like, I forget he's passed on now, and his kids have like split it all up, and whatever. I'm not that close to that part of the family. But like, my dad always like really looked up to Frank a lot, and was like, because my dad also like never went to a restaurant until he was like 28 or something. Like, and like he would go out on dates because he grew up on a farm, and they're like, why would we go out to eat when we grew what we wanted here? Like, my dad like desperately did not want to be a hillbilly, but at the same time he like is proud of where he's from. Like, there's a lot of duality in him as a person, a lot where it's like, so to him it was like. And my grandfather was always very emotionally distant. So Frank was like somebody that he could talk to, and he aspired to be more like him. And he was like, he has his own business. He built himself up from nothing. So like in architecture school, he was like, this is all right. But there just weren't, the job market was like, maybe you'll get a job, maybe you won't. Sure. And so basically like, he was like, well, Frank's an accountant, I want to be like Frank. So he changed his major, became a CPA, and he worked construction like every summer. That was his like job that he did to make money and pay for his college.
Your dad's that's some pretty blue collar,
absolutely,
badass work there. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, like he's built stuff his whole life. I think it like that's where that architecture bug came from. Like, he loves the building of things. Sure. I mean, he's remodeled every room in our house like 5 times. It's always just like, oh, cool, we're getting a fucking cathedral ceiling now. Thanks, Dad. Got it. It looked fine.
Yeah. I mean, and that speaks. Yeah, absolutely. That speaks to that duality you were talking about. So he's a paper pusher by trade, but for fun, he's. Yeah, he like loves that stuff. Like my brother's a contractor because my dad like taught him everything that he knew. Basically, no kidding. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's actually really, really awesome. My brother like is so thankful that he has that skill set now. As a kid, he was like, ugh, sucks. But I'm like, man, I wish Dad had taught me some of this shit. I mean, that's a trade.
Yeah.
I mean, like he has a trade.
Yeah, he has a true trade that he can make money at forever.
Absolutely.
And he's got a good little business of his own, which is nice. But yeah, it's like, so my dad did kind of both those things. And the CPA work, like, his favorite kind of client is somebody that has like a trade that he can be like, okay, let me make your work more efficient. Sure. Like he's got a really good brain for like boiling things down and being efficient. Like a true CPA is somebody that can kind of like, isn't just doing your books. Like they can kind of take a step back and be like, oh, here are all the things that we could do to make this work better. Mm-hmm. And let me like help you fix that and make your business run better. Yeah. And like he loves that shit because he also like loves to tell you what to do. So, and he's just, and he's also very good at it. Like he's built like a really nice life for us. I never really wanted for anything as a kid growing up. And that's cool. I'm very thankful for him for that. Was he present for you? Was he? He was. Relationship like with him? The hard thing with him is that like, he's a CPA that always wanted his own business. So he started his own firm, and during tax season, he would just disappear for 3 months out of the year. Wow. So from January, the middle of January until February or April 15th, I did not see my dad. He was just in the office busting his ass. And I knew on one level that he was doing it for us, because my dad's also somebody that's very much like, his language of love is by giving you things and by supporting you. And I think that's where a lot of men of that generation are comfortable doing it. So he's just like, I provided for you, and, I will take care of you. And like, we can talk about stuff now, but there's still this like, everything needs to be a little bit transactional with him. Like, he needs to like teach you something, and as opposed to just calling him and just bullshitting about something. I'm like, I just want to tell you about my day.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. Because my dad is about that age too.
Yeah.
My dad was born in 50.
Yeah. My dad's a 52.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad's a lot like that too. Like, I mean, I know I can come to him with like any problem.
Yeah.
but I wouldn't necessarily go to him for like relatively like if I went through a breakup or something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call my dad.
No,
you know what I mean?
I can't
Like,
even imagine that. No,
but.
yeah,
He does. Yeah, he's the same way. You know, I mean, like, shit breaks around my house all the time, and I call my dad. I'm like, Dad, I don't know how to fix that. You know, and he'll walk me through it, and then and he gets like he'll get like with like girls I'm dating, he'll get them things like not in a creepy way or anything, but like it's like that transactional thing that you're saying, like he'll know that they like a thing and he'll buy them a thing related to that, nothing expensive or anything, but like I was just thinking of you know, and I think he's showing me his support of me in this relationship that I'm in by giving her a thing and making her feel like she's part of the, you know, the family. And but it's funny that
absolutely
I guess I've never really thought about the transactional nature of my father's love.
Well, it's like, I mean, that's like, I mean, once you like, I've had to do a lot of soul searching just to kind of be like, my mom passed away a few years ago and they were still together. It's been difficult, but I can talk about it. It's not a big deal. I'm a completely open book about all of it, but, they showed love very differently. And it's interesting because like my relation with my dad has always been like as a problem solver. So him having to like figure out this other mantle has been very difficult. Yeah. But it's been interesting. It's a big thing that I've had to do is be like, this is accept that like, okay, this is the way that you are. And I can't expect you to be more than this thing. So a lot of it is just like, okay, well, like when he came out to visit me in California, he hadn't been out here basically since I'd moved out here because my mom got sick after that and he was taking care of her. And when he came out here, he was just like, oh, your place doesn't have any shelves. Okay. And we spent 3 days of his trip in LA going to Lowe's over and over again. And it was just like, okay, you have to have these shelves. I will help you build these shelves. And now you have these shelves in your home. And like, he bought me a new drill bit, new drill set. Like, it was great. But I was just like, do you want to meet my friends?
It's just so happy doing it.
I was like, do you want to come to a comedy show? No, you don't? Okay, fine.
Oh, wow.
And it was interesting because like he had flown into, I was doing a festival up in Portland and then he'd always wanted to see the Redwoods. So I was like, well, why don't you fly into Portland? And then we could on the last day of the festival we can drive down together. And he's like, oh, I'll fly in for the whole festival. And so he flew in, and then I was like, cool, well, here's my schedule of shows. And he's like, oh, I'll be asleep by then. And I was like, okay, so you're not going to come to any of my shows at this festival? Okay, that's fine. I'm kind of on some stuff with some big names, but I guess it's fine. You don't have to come to that. It's weird that you're not. And he was like, well, no. He like got a rental car and was like, well, I'm going to go drive through the gorge by myself. And I was like, have fun.
Is he like generally like an introverted kind of guy? Is that
he isn't. I think honestly, I think a lot of it was like if it is more helpful to him. He doesn't know what to do if he is not an authority on something. So if he's the person that knows the least in the room or something like that, he has a really hard time like knowing how to just have a conversation. Like it's interesting. His groups of friends I can divide up into two things. They're either like men that are older and are mentors of his, or they're like his guy friends that he is more successful than, and that he's been friends with forever, and he's helped them a lot. Like his fucking friend Dave is this guy that I like. I hate him, but whatever. It's not a big deal. Dave got divorced and moved into our house. It was supposed to be 2 weeks, turned into 3 years. And
how old were you at this time?
I just started 6th grade.
Oh,
so
God.
6th grade to 8th grade. My middle school, Dave lived with us, and Dave is an alcoholic. And that's why he got divorced. But he was my dad's best friend since we were 5. And he just was like in our house. He would steal money from me. And like, my dad wanted to be able to help him too, because he was like, no, Dave needs a place so he can get on his feet. And it's just like, he's got a huge heart and he thinks he can help everybody.
God, okay, all right. Because my dad, I can't tell you, I can't think of a single period of time in my life that my dad hasn't had somebody
Yeah.
Like on the property, I guess for the listening audience, like I live on a big piece of property that I own a small parcel of, and my folks are like next door. And then on the other side of that, there's another house that my folks rent out. But like my entire life, there's been somebody that my parents have and like people that have caused some serious problems. Like my mom had a cousin that had like just gotten out of prison, and they're like, he needed a place to stay, and it was like, they were like, well, here, we got this cottage over here. You can stay in this. It's like, this is an ex-convict.
Can he not be there?
I am in 5th grade. Like,
yes.
Yeah. My brother's a 4th grader.
Yeah.
And it was always an issue, you know. I mean, there's always something, and it was kind of like a tense way for us to grow up. You know, my brother and I, just because it is like, I mean, it's the same situation with you. It's just a tense atmosphere to be around,
and it also just changes like what what kind of priority you think you are to your parents.
Yes.
In a way.
Especially when you're telling them. Like, hey, like, I'm having an issue with this guy. And they're like, nah, you're dead.
Yeah,
12-year-old. You don't know anything or whatever.
Exactly. Like, I mean, Dave, I was just like, I don't like this guy. I mean, Dave was just a drunk. He never tried anything with me. He wasn't like a pervert or anything like that. He just was like a drunk that was drunk in our house all the time. And he's probably a reason I'm straight edge, but I don't say that because I'm not 18. But like technically, I guess that makes sense. That is what I am. But like he's a major part of that because for my formative years, I fucking saw him steal money from me and be beat-faced drunk in our house all the time. And my mom was like a very sweet person that went along with whatever my dad said. But my grandmother, my dad's mom, lived with us because we moved into her house after my grandfather died because it was in a better school district. And she was the only one that was like, this is fucking bullshit. Keep him the fuck away from the kids. And then she would tell him that he was lazy all the time and just be like, you're lazy, you need to get a job so you can leave this house. Like she was like, my grandmother was my best friend because of that. She like was the one that I felt like at that point actually had my back.
Wow, go grandma.
Yeah,
that's
she
great.
was May Bessie Posey. She was my favorite person in the world.
Oh, that's right.
Loved her.
My brother and I had to get rid of that cousin's name was John, the ex-convict one.
Yeah.
I was really proud of us.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to get rid of him so bad. And one thing that I knew that could like trump the whole situation, because my parents, growing up, they're much less so now, but my parents are very religious. We just started like planting porn.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then we started ordering a bunch of adult movies.
Oh shit.
Like through the cable and pay-per-view.
I love it.
It was like a weird, like pervy, like I don't know, like Home Alone. Like I don't know. It was
so funny.
But it worked. It worked. They were like, you can't have that around our kids. And like John's like freaking. He's like, I didn't do it. They're like,
oh my god.
Like, who are you gonna believe? Us beautiful church-going, Sunday school-going children, or the ex-convict? It was at that point we could,
man,
because they didn't want to like admit that we were the ones, you know. So it was
that's
perfect.
amazing.
It was great. Totally
oh, that's such a good grift. Holy shit, I love that.
Yeah.
You should be proud of that.
I hadn't thought about that in a while.
That's
actually,
really funny.
It came back to me.
You got to get those Daves out of your house. Whatever it takes, those Daves and Johns got to fucking go. Up until a couple of years ago, I still called him Mr. Dave because it was hard for me just to call him Dave because he was this thing in my head. And it's interesting because my brother is 3 years younger than me, and his memories of it, he just barely remembers it at all. But for me, it was like that time that I was like,
real formative years,
yeah. I mean, they say like what happens to you when you're 12 like shapes who you are more than most other points in your life.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure what your sources are on that, but I'm 100% in. Like,
I've heard it. I've read it a couple of times.
I mean, I can remember that age vividly, more so than I can remember like my early 20s, you know, and I mean, so much of my 20s are like kind of like a fog, not because I was doing drugs or drinking. It was just seems so inconsequential. Yeah, you know, absolutely. But man, from like 11 to 13, it's so vivid.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
that's great. Well, do you have any like favorite dad memories you want to share?
Yeah,
like what's a cool
dad
anecdote for you?
Well, when we were when I was a kid, like Star Trek is very near and dear to my heart because my dad and I would watch TNG together every week, and he would like brush my hair when we watched Star Trek, Next Generation, and that was our tradition. And when TNG went off the air, like we were both like sad about it until like Deep Space Nine started. Then we were like, oh hell yeah, our tradition's back, it's awesome. And it was like that was like a form of that transactional love, but it was something that we could just do together that like felt like cool, like we have this unspoken thing we can kind of just do together, and like we're both here for it. Because I think him and I are also very similar in a lot of ways. Like we're both very we're very fucking stubborn. We're like both kind of like alphas about stuff. Like we're both arrogant, but I've also been socialized female, so like I'm I have a lot more empathy.
You're more tactful.
More tactful. That's the next generation. It's what you want to happen. And it's also like I get where his comes from, because his comes from like being the person that he's a completely self-made person, and he pulled himself up and he built all of this stuff, but he's also like always surrounded himself by people that he is the authority figure on. Right. So he always is the authority. Yeah. He basically always is. And it's interesting to be somebody that's like, I'm gonna call you on your shit. And like, I mean, he likes it because he likes having somebody to push back on him with, but it is also just, it's frustrating for me because I'm like, I don't actually like this. You just need to get put in your fucking place sometimes.
Was your mom real good about that? Like, was that, no?
No, my mom was like, so my mom and my dad got together when they were 19 and 20, and they were together since then. And my mom was just like a very, she was like a park ranger. She was like very sweet, like had a very huge heart, and like she was very religious, and like she was raised Catholic and then converted to Methodist, which is how me and my brother were raised, because my dad was like, I'll get married in a Catholic church, my kids will not be raised in a Catholic church, but Methodist is fine with me. And we were confirmed and all that stuff through them. And but my mom was just like a very like, she had a very big heart, but she also like was very timid about a lot of things. And I had a lot of qualities that I didn't appreciate because I perceived them as weak when I was younger. But now there's a lot more like, there's a lot more patience and grace to her than I gave her credit for, right. Because, she had a lot more qualities that like, as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate more in seeing in people. Yeah. But she was a really good balance for my dad with that kind of thing. Sure. Like they really, but she also would let him get away with murder. I mean, like my dad was basically, he was a mama's boy because him and his mom were best friends and he lived with his mom, his parents until he bought the house that my mom and him moved into. And then he lived with my mom, and like my mom, he became like a wife's boy basically. Oh wow. And it was like, well, you're gonna worship the ground that I walk on, and you're never gonna like put me in my place. All right, that's fine. And then we moved back in with my grandmother when my grandfather died, so they had like his mom and his wife who just would take care of everything. Like, my dad's never done laundry. He's like never cooked a meal. Really? And like, no, absolutely not.
That's shocking because he didn't go to a restaurant until he was 28.
Yeah.
So he was literally having somebody cook his meals
for him his entire life. And now my grandmother passed away in 2007, and my mom passed away 4 years ago. And when my mom was getting sick, my aunt, his sister, who has been divorced twice and just like is like, fuck man, I just want to like read my romance novels about vampires, and like she's just like doesn't want to ever date again. She moved in to the house with my dad when my mom got sick to like help with that basically. And she lives with my dad now, so she cooks all of his meals and does all of his laundry now. So he's like literally always had like a woman take care of him. Wow. And he's like talked to me and been like, maybe I'll think about dating and kick your aunt out sooner or later. And I'm like, no one will date you. You have been taken care of your entire life.
I mean, unless he finds...
and find somebody that wants to do that, for sure.
Exactly. Like, unless he finds the wife whose husband died.
That misses doing that stuff. It's interesting because he's only interested in widows. He does not want to date divorcees. And I'm like, wow. What the fuck?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I've talked to him about it once, and I was like, I don't know what to say to you about this, but that's wrong.
Yeah.
But I think I think he's still just like, that's a way for him to have authority over. Everything is about control levels for him.
I mean, that's kind of an old timey mentality too,
for sure.
One other question I was going to ask you is, because you and I are about the same age.
Yeah.
We're early 30s.
Yeah.
And our dads are about the same age. And so that means there's kind of a gap, I guess, in between when your parents were married and when
Before they
you
had
were born. You know, because like I have an older brother, but he's like 14 years older than me.
Oh, interesting.
And, you know, they had him right when they had gotten married. But then they waited, you know. And so I guess what was happening in that time for your parents? Or do you have older siblings? Or?
No. I'm the oldest of two. My parents basically, let's see, they dated from the time they were 19 and 20. They got married when they were like 28 and 27.
Oh, so they dated a long
They dated for a very long time.
Okay. I was thinking they got married right out of high school or something.
No, they dated for a really long time. And my dad just like, I think he just like, didn't get cold feet. Like he knew that's who he wanted to be with, but he just was like, I'm not going to rush this. He wanted to get his house in order basically before he married my mom.
Wow.
And was very much like, okay, I want to go through like he started his CPA firm basically, and he was like a really big part of like JCs aren't really a thing anymore, but JCs was like Young Rotary basically. Okay. So he was really big into that, and then he was JC president. He's like, and then he was huge into Rotary for like 30 years too. He's really into all of that. But he so he just like wanted to make all of his contacts and like be the thing that he thought he needed to be before he got married. And then they got married, and I think they were, let's see, my mom had me when she was 30. I think they were married for like 3 years before she had me. So they were together. They wanted to do a bunch of stuff before they had us. That's basically
pretty cool, especially for that time.
Yeah,
you know?
No, absolutely.
Like that. I mean, that 60s going into the 70s. That's still a pretty conservative time. You know, as far as the whole marriage thing goes.
Absolutely.
So,
well, I think
that's actually
I know.
Cool.
I think honestly that's why they put off getting married for so long too, because it was just like, if we get married, the pressure for kids is going to be more intense. Yeah. And I mean, my grandmother, my mom's side, my shitty grandma, she's dead too. I can say it. She sucked. When Ace Ventura, she's the one that took me to Ace Ventura too, because I begged her to. Because she would take us things, so she like didn't need to like talk to us, but she like, all right, fine, we'll go do this. I mean, grandmother, I guess I have to do something with you. And she, to the day she died, every time that she saw me, she would be like, "Do you still like that Jim Carrey?" Be like, "Yes, he's awesome." And then she'd be like, ugh, and she would never ask me another question about myself. So she like, I remained a stranger to her because of a choice that I made in second grade.
Oh, that's hilarious.
She was so crazy. But she wouldn't let my mom move in with my dad until my dad bought a house and they got married. So then my dad bought a townhouse, was their first place. And like my grandmother was just like, no, she will live here. You can take her out on dates and stuff. She like lived at college and things like that. But like, it was like, no, just so funny.
That is great.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think like they waited a really long time before they had us. And it was like, when I was 30, or when my mom was 30, she had me. And when she was 33, she had my brother.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a good situation.
I had, my last two guests had very intense stories. And yours,
yeah.
You know, and yours, when I asked you about your dad, you're like, "Oh yeah, my dad and I have a great relationship." I was like, "Wow."
Yeah, like I love my dad. Like he definitely like nobody's perfect.
Sure.
But he's also like a good man at his center. Like if I look at the intentions of everything, even the most maddening things that he's done, I'm like, I know why you're doing this though, and I disagree with it so much, but I understand why, and like, you know, it all comes from him just being like a good man that just wants to do right by the people that he loves.
Yeah.
And like I can afford him, you know, his imperfections for
cool
that.
It's cool that you're able to meet him halfway on that.
Yeah. I mean, he loves me. He tells me he's proud of me all the time.
That's cool.
But he also will be like, you know, you're great. Whenever he sees me do stand up, he's always like, your public speaking skills have gotten so good. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's one way to did you think it was funny? And he'll be like, yeah. I'm like, well, we don't. Okay, so now I just don't ask about that. I'm just like, cool. What he does is he like looks around the room and he sees that people are enjoying it, and that makes him enjoy it. He doesn't understand what I'm doing, but he's just like, okay, she's good at this, and it makes her happy, And I've also, I haven't had to ask him for money in 6 or 7 years.
That
so
goes a long way, yeah.
So he's just like, okay, something's working.
Yeah. I don't understand it, but
yeah. It's like, all right, sure.
Hey, sometimes that's the best you can hope for.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's gotten, life is easier if you just accept people's limitations and give them empathy versus being like, why can't you be the thing that I need you to be? That, you'll drive yourself crazy doing that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for talking about your dad with me today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brandie Posey, can you tell people where to find you on all the social medias?
Absolutely.
And plug all your stuff? This is going to come out in April, so I don't know if you can plug any specific shows, but
yeah, absolutely
podcasts and social media and all that fun stuff. Tell them where to find you.
Oh, absolutely. So I am on Twitter and Instagram at Brandazzle. That's Brandazzle. You can find me on Facebook, but I hate Facebook, so like it if you want to. I barely ever use my page. BrandiePosey.com, BrandiePosey has all of my dates and details for that. I tour 4 or 5 months out of the year, basically. I try to hit the road. Come up here. Yeah, I am just some April forward dates. The 9th, 13th through the 22nd of April, I'm going to be in Cincinnati, Ohio at the Go Bananas Comedy Clubs. That should be pretty fun. It's one of my first headlining things at a real club, which should be pretty good. And then the only other thing I want to plug is in July? Yeah, July. I have a show that I do monthly in LA called Picture This. That's comedians paired up with animators, and they live animate your jokes during your set, and it's really, really fun.
That is so cool.
And we get huge animators to do it. We just had Craig Bartlett, who's the creator of Hey Arnold, just did it.
And it's live.
It's live. It basically feels like you're dealing with the most talented heckler ever.
Yeah.
Because it's them reinterpreting your jokes. Through. It's so cool to see your jokes filtered through somebody else's brain, to be like, oh shit, I didn't even think that was funny. But I've gotten so many tags and things off of it, and you're just kind of fucking around within your own bits, and seeing them drawn for you is really fun.
Yeah.
And we do that monthly at the Virgil, which is a place in Los Angeles. It's a free show. It's really fun. Picture This comedy, or it's on my website too. But in July 21st, we are going to be doing it at the Kennedy Center in Washington D.C., which is pretty sick.
Yeah, you've got some big movement on that. I saw on your bio,
we just shot a pilot for it. Yeah,
so cool.
Yeah, we just shot a pilot for True TV, so we'll see if it gets picked up or not. Fingers crossed.
Cool. Brandie Posey, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I like saying your whole name.
Oh, no, please. I like my whole name, so say it. Also, I have a podcast. It's called Lady to Lady.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's Lady to Lady. It's myself, Barbara Gray, and Tess Barker, her 2 other awesome female comics. And then we have a 4th guest on every week who is usually a female comic. But sometimes we do things like taking French Tort to Sizzler and buying him a white Chardonnay.
Yeah. What was the Easter Bunny thing you guys had going? Oh, that was so funny.
Barbara and I, it will have ended by the time this episode comes out. Barbara and I are part-time mall Easter bunnies right now for money because we're professional comedians, and sometimes that means you take a side hustle.
Yeah, you commit to a bit. Yeah, that's great.
Oh boy, yep. So a lot of strange children have just sat on my lap. It's great, and I got paid for it. I just had my first. 2 days ago, I just had my first of 6 shifts doing it. It's very weird.
Oh man, I know we were wrapping up, but let's real quick, I guess.
Yeah.
How comfortable is that suit? I mean, was it?
It's really hot.
Is it?
It's a really hot suit. The head also, it's just, the mouth is the only fresh air that your body gets. There's a little fan that when there aren't kids around, you just tilt towards the fan and you just get the fan into your mouth. And you're like, oh, this looks creepy.
Yeah.
And then it's weird because the Easter Bunny doesn't talk. So you're just silently sitting there, and kids will be like, Bunny, what's your name? And it's like, you can't be like Trevor. You can't. They also all assume that I'm a man, which I didn't realize there were gender problems in the Easter Bunny.
I never really thought about it.
Yeah, but they all think I'm a man. 2 kids have grabbed my boobs just to be, because they'll just touch the whole costume, and then they'll just push their hands on my chest, and I'm like, I don't know, and then I'm just like, can't say anything. You just put their hands in their lap and just hold them still. Like, all right, cool. Made 3 kids cry on the first shift. So
did you?
Yeah. Just the costume's scary. I'll show you a picture of it and I'll get your honest reaction on the podcast. It's down. Very, very creepy. Where's my? Oh, there it is. Here.
Oh, that's an intense costume.
Yeah.
That's not what I pictured. I mean, I guess I was picturing a bunny costume, of course, but
yeah,
it's aggressively bunny.
Yeah, it's very aggressively bunny. It's just like,
It's almost like you have a handlebar mustache, too.
Yeah. I mean, nothing about it's good.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's Brandie, thank you so much. You were awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, that was Brandie Posey. Yeah, that was fun. That Easter Bunny thing at the end was so good. I'm actually waiting on a text back from Brandie right now on the episode title because I couldn't decide. I kind of want to call it Aggressively Bunny, but I also thought Casual Alpha was a really cool episode title. So I decided I'm going to leave it up to her. So we'll see. And so that's been our show. Check out, I linked, Brandie's got so much content out there. And so I'm going to try to link all of it. But it's all good. And I want you guys all to listen to everything that she has out there. Listen to her podcast, Lady to Lady. That's actually kind of what we're talking about at the beginning. We mentioned it at the end. And it's one of those podcasts that I really like to listen to, usually for the first 10 minutes, because they move so fast and they're so smart and they're so funny that I feel like kind of dumb, like I can't keep up. But then it's almost like it's like when you kind of don't speak a language well. But then you hear it enough and you start picking up on it. It's like 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh, now I'm there. Like now I'm with them, and they're all just so funny, man. And so check out their podcast. They are fantastic, and and I assume that you guys are all smarter than me. I don't know. It's kind of like my resting thing. So you guys probably won't have any of those problems with their podcast that I just explained. But it's great, and I love it. I listen to it every week. I think they post it weekly. It just whenever it pops up in my Stitcher feed. So cool, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, rate it and review it on iTunes. The whole show. Just like it. Just like me. I'm very insecure. And again, thank you to everybody who's been listening. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from folks. Oh, you know what? Let me see. I had a couple of iTunes reviews. Let me see if I can pull those up real quick. This isn't good radio. I'm clicking on my computer right now. Let's see here. iTunes. There you are. Okay, going into the iTunes store. It's loading real slow. God, I got to get better about storing all of this information. My computer is just about to explode. Like my hard drive is so full right now with all these recordings and like bouncing everything down. And I just bought an external hard drive, so I need to like do all of that and bounce that all down and clear some disk space. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. There's my podcast. There you are. Come on now. Well, now I'm really fucking it up. I'm just trying to get to the reviews. Maybe I can't. Right now, this isn't good radio. This is awful. Am I going to edit this out? I don't know. You guys seem cool, though. Here we go. I think I figured it out. All right. Oh, cool. Oh, I got another one. Cool. Let's see here. Yeah. Oh, I got one from Disney Sea Girl. I realized I didn't talk for like 10 seconds there. I'm sorry. I enjoyed how real this podcast was. Dave is honest. And so are his guests. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they are real honest guests, right? I can't believe how open everybody is. They've been fantastic. No one is pretending to be someone, something they aren't. Found myself laughing, nodding my head, and talking along with the podcast. Like they could hear me. I can't wait to hear more episodes. Oh, thank you. I actually think Disney Sea Girl, it's got to be my daughter's mom. So that's so fucking cool. And then another one here. Don't get out the tissues just yet. It's titled Not Sad at All. Don't get out the tissues just yet. Dave and his guests are hilarious, while also being really open about their childhoods and men who shaped who they are. Yeah, thank you. If you want to listen to two people have an honest conversation about their parents, or just want to compare your parents with other people's parents, this is a great podcast for that. Yes, judge your parents. Always. Thank you. Thank you. That was from Tanya14. And yeah, Tanya actually raises a great point. I explained it in episode 2. I call it Sad Dad, not because I'm sad. It's sort of like an anti-mantra, if that's such a thing, where it's something I say to myself when I feel like I'm being low effort as a parent. It's like, don't be a sad dad, dude. Don't be a pathetic dad. And a classic example that I shared actually back with Lisa Curry a sad dad moment would be me making dinner for my kid. Maybe it's macaroni and cheese, and she needs some vegetables, so I put some baby carrots on there, and then, but she needs fruit too, so I get a little cutie out of the fruit basket, and I set it all down in front of her and realize it's all orange. Just made her an entirely orange plate of food. So that is a low effort, sad dad moment, and it's something that I say to myself all the time. Don't be that man. And then I got another one here, from Warden Music Review. I don't know what that is. Let's see here. Sad Dad is rad. Yeah, thank you. Great podcast blending comedy and fatherhood. I hope someday the show will interview teachers who bomb at stand-up comedy every day in front of their students. Keep creating, Dave. Oh, cool. We can delve into that. I've got kind of a steady flow of comedians passing through my house at all times, and that's just kind of naturally where my mind goes as far as people to talk to, because I'm a comedian. But sure, we could venture out. I'm sure that teachers deal with a lot of the same anxiety when their joke falls flat. You're just trying to relate to these children in front of you and make things interesting for them, and then you're just eating a. We call it eating a dick on stage. You just ate a dick. And I'm not sure if that's problematic turn of phrase. Maybe it is. I don't know. That's I should probably ask some people about that. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that phrase. But anyway, yeah. So teachers, yeah, man. You guys are up there performing just like comedians. And it's a scary thing getting in front of a group of people. What's so funny is I get up on stage 5 to 6 times a week for an extended amount of time, doing comedy in front of complete strangers, but it's what I'm comfortable with. But then after our shows, we'll go out to like karaoke to hang out, and I get so nervous doing karaoke. It's so scary. I mean, I realize I'm not a singer by trade, but nobody's a singer when they do fucking karaoke. And I'm just so nervous about that. Maybe it's because I am a musician. I mean, not a good one, but I guess I care a little bit about my performance and being judged in that way. I guess I should probably just stop caring so much. But yeah, zero fear getting up on stage in the context of comedy. But you put me on a goddamn karaoke stage and I'm shaking. Oh my goodness. So that's me. Thank you for the reviews. Guys, you guys are all the absolute best. And thanks again. This is kind of a long episode. I've been trying real hard to keep them at about an hour long, because the more episodes you have, or at least the more time you have, the more the hosting fees for the podcast can be. But then I realized I was like way under last month, and so I was like, well, I guess I can stretch my podcasting legs a little bit more. So this Brandie Posey episode is my longest one yet. And but yeah, again, we're still just trying to figure this whole thing out, you guys. So you're great. I love you all. You're fantastic. Kisses. Any more feedback on the show? Like I said, saddadpodcast@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm going to probably make a Facebook page soon. It's just so much. So much. I don't know why I'm whining. You guys don't care. I mean, maybe you care. What am I saying? But yeah, it's just I feel like I've got a lot of promotional stuff on my plate, just doing regular old comedy. So, yeah, but yeah, I'll make a Facebook page, and eventually a website. I think that seems like the smart thing to do. I need a website of my own, daveabkarian.com. I wonder if that don't buy that, you guys. Not until I can afford it, or somebody buy it and give it to me for really cheap. That'd be rad. So, and I guess if you're in the mood to buy stuff, I need a new mixing board. That'd be cool. I don't know. I'm just begging now. Oh my God, I am a sad dad. All right, you guys have been a ton of fun today. People I can't hear. I'm having fun just chatting into this microphone, so I'm going to stop it. You guys have an awesome weekend, or whatever time of week it is right now for you, and I'll see you next week. I've got some more fun episodes planned for you. Be good. Bye.